What's up guys, Mike here, and today we are talking about the projected #1 pick in the NBA draft, Markelle Fultz. Now, if you haven't seen this kid play yet, if you don't know much about him, don't worry, I'm about to fill you in on everything you need to know. And if you do know some things about him, then trust me, you're still going to learn a good amount today. And you're gonna want to learn as much as possible about him because, dare I say, Markelle Fultz might just be the NBA's next legitimate superstar. Lately, a lot of people have talked about how the center position in the NBA is changing. Guys like Embiid, Turner, Cat, and Porzingis have evolved the position to the point where if you can't seemingly do it all, it's hard to stay on the court. With that said, I think the point guard position is going through a similar type of evolution. This year, we've already seen Westbrook, Harden, and Giannis post absurd numbers across the board. Numbers that have made us realize just how dangerous a team can be if they have a point guard who can do it all. Which is exactly why Markelle Fultz will grow into one of the best players in the NBA. The man can simply do it all, as proven by the absurd numbers he has put up in his first and only college season. Just taking a glance at these stats, right away we can see that he has the basics covered, as Markelle averages an awesome 23.2 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists a game. He shoots 48% from the field and 42% from 3, which is incredibly important in our modern game that emphasizes court spacing. On the defensive end, Markelle averages 1.6 steals and 1.3 blocks from the point guard spot, proving that the potential is there for him to grow into a defensive force down the line. These numbers are likely the best stats put up by a top freshman prospect since Kevin Durant, but they don't show the full story. Because while these numbers would get any front office excited, it's Markelle Fultz's story that confirms he has what it takes to grow into one of the best basketball players in the world. So let's take a trip back to the 2014 basketball season, where a 15-year-old Markelle Fultz was a sophomore in high school playing for DeMatha. Last season, as a freshman, Markelle only played for the freshman team, and as a sophomore, he was cut from the varsity team and was instead forced to play JV. Yes, the man who just 3 years later would go on to become the projected #1 pick in the draft played on his JV team as a sophomore, which seems insane, and if Fultz chose to get angry at this situation, it would certainly be understandable. But this wasn't a Michael Jordan type moment. Markelle wasn't mad that he had to play JV. No, he just accepted his situation, but like Jordan, this notion that he wasn't good enough fueled him. Day in and day out, Markelle worked harder than everyone around him. The kid was and is an absolute gym rat. He lives to improve his game. There's a reason why his Twitter bio has his location as the gym. Day after day, he chose not to go home after school for a few hours before practice and instead spent his little free time working more on his game. And when he wasn't practicing with his team, he could be found at another gym in Maryland practicing with his own personal trainer. Every second of his life was dedicated to becoming the best player that he could be, and all this work definitely produced results, as even in his sophomore year when he was on JV, he was turning heads. People used to show up to DeMatha's games early just to watch Markelle play, and Fultz was so impressive that it got to the point where college coaches found themselves scouting DeMatha's JV games. It was at this time that a Washington assistant coach saw Markelle play, walked outside, and called head coach Lorenzo Romar and told him, "Coach, you've got to get on a plane and see him. If he grows at all, he's an NBA All-Star. Not an NBA player, but an All-Star." Luckily for all of us, Markelle did grow, shooting up from a small 5'8" sophomore to an elite-sized 6'4" junior with a 6'10" wingspan. It was in this junior season that he began to take over the basketball scene. After an impressive year, Markelle was named as a 5-star prospect by ESPN, an almost unheard of jump from JV player to one of the top prospects in the nation. He would go on to build upon this success as a senior when he led DeMatha to a Maryland Private League championship and was selected to participate in the McDonald's All-American game and to play on Team USA's U18 team. It was on Team USA where Markelle separated himself from the other 5-star prospects in his class, as in the 2016 FIBA America's U18 tournament, Fultz led Team USA to a gold medal victory and was named the MVP of the entire tournament, which was a surprise to many people, but it wasn't a surprise to Markelle Fultz, as during his high school career, Markelle was quoted as saying, "I think I can be one of the best ones to ever play the game," a statement that many would soon believe after watching him this year at Washington. Because as I mentioned before, this year Markelle is putting up ridiculous numbers while playing with excellent efficiency. His current 28.8 9.1 PER ranks him 27th in the entire NCAA, but as we've all come to see, numbers don't always tell the full story for a draft prospect, which is completely okay for Markelle Fultz because his full story includes a 6'4" body, a 6'10" wingspan, and awe-inspiring athleticism. He has everything you could possibly want from a top-level point guard prospect. Again, let me emphasize that he has a 6'10" wingspan, which means he will have an immediate physical advantage over almost every NBA point guard. Purely as a player, when scouts look at him, the only negative they see is that sometimes he appears to be, for lack of a better word, sleepy on the court. But this apparent lack of emotion is not really a bad thing. If anything, it's impressive, as despite his young age, Markelle appears to be in complete control of his emotions at all times, something that many 10-year NBA vets can't claim. And with that said, Markelle is also in control of a lot more than just his emotions when he's on the court. Although he's just 18 years old, Fultz finds himself playing with a basketball IQ similar to a veteran NBA point guard. On offense, he controls the pace. He knows when to get his teammates involved, and he knows when he should be aggressive and take the ball to the rim. His style of play is a rare combination of smooth and explosive, which is why it's hard to find a direct comparison to him in the NBA. If I had to compare him to someone, I'd say he's more of a point guard version of Brandon Roy, but with moments of Russell Westbrook mixed in. His only downside to scouts so far has been his lack of defensive effort at times, but it's really hard to blame Markelle for cruising on defense sometimes when he plays 36 minutes a game and is expected to create the majority of the Huskies' offense. Plus, in high school, Fultz was quoted as saying, "I love playing defense, it really gets me going. I feel like I can guard most positions, and I just want to be able to do whatever I can to help my team," which is not something you'd ever hear come out of the mouth of a man who truly does not give a crap about defense, which is why I think Markelle will figure it out once he makes the jump to the NBA. Which means at this point, Markelle Fultz seems to be a dream prospect. He's got the body of an elite point guard, he's got the stats of a legitimate player of the year candidate, and he's only 18 years old. Yes, Markelle Fultz should have it all, except his team just doesn't win. After 24 games this season, the Washington Huskies are sitting at a 9-15 record and are just 2-10 in conference play. In his only matchup against another elite point guard prospect, Markelle's Washington team lost by over 40 points to Lonzo Ball's UCLA Bruins. This lack of team success is understandably going to be a concern for some scouts going forward. However, when looking at college prospects, if there's one thing I would not put too much stock into, it would be the team record of a prospect when he's playing with below average talent for a below average coach. To show you just one example of why records can prove to be meaningless, just look at the case of Paul George. His Fresno State team went 15-18 in the WAC in PG's last season in college. This hasn't stopped him from growing from raw prospect into NBA All-Star, and it won't stop Markelle either. To put this bluntly, I don't blame him for his team's lack of success. In all likelihood, the 2017 season will mark the 5th consecutive year that the Huskies failed to make the NCAA tournament under Lorenzo Romar. Last year, the team didn't qualify for the tournament despite the fact that they started 2 players, Marquise Chris and DeJounte Murray, who would be first-round picks in the 2016 draft. When a team has that much talent and still fails, it's safe to say you can put most of the blame on the head coach. Lorenzo Romar simply is living in the past and uses offensive schemes that are outdated by today's standards. Just looking at the lineups Washington uses, they often play several big men heavy minutes that simply can't shoot the basketball, which has led to a lack of court spacing for their guards. And to me, this makes Markelle's production on this Washington team nothing short of miraculous. Sure, he has the ball in his hands all the time, but he's still able to put up these type of numbers with awesome efficiency despite the fact that he does not have shooters around him, and also despite the fact that he does not have a big man who can consistently finish around the basket. Once Markelle enters the NBA, once he gets some better teammates, once he gets a competent coach, well, the sky's going to be the limit for him. Especially because he's a workhorse, he's someone who knows how it feels not to be good enough, and he's someone who will put in the time to make sure he never feels that way again. And so when you combine all this, the stats, the wingspan, the work ethic, I really think Markelle Fultz is the complete package, and I think he has a chance to leave the NBA doing exactly what he wants. I think he has a chance to be one of the best ones to ever play the game. And I gotta say, I'm so excited to watch his journey, and I'm definitely gonna be rooting for him. Which wraps up today's video, guys. I hope you enjoy. If you're new to the channel, I hope you subscribe. I make basketball videos like this. I'm doing NBA what ifs, I'm doing NBA conspiracies, NBA history. Basically, if it has to do with the NBA, if it has to do with basketball and it's interesting, I'll make a video on it. So if you love basketball, I would love to have you subscribe and join this channel. And to everyone who's already been subscribed, thank you guys so much for supporting. You know you guys mean the world to me. You guys are so awesome. Thank you. And as always, have an awesome day, my dudes, and cue that music.
Hold up, hold up, hold up.